Hey everyone, you're watching DeFi Talks with DeFi Dad. I really need to update that video because it actually says DeFi tutorials, DeFi Dad. But anyways, it's Friday, April 15th, 2022. I am here with George. Actually, George, how do I pronounce your last name? I always screw it up.
Harrap is fine. Yeah.
Harrap, there we go. So I'm here with George Harrap, the founder of Step Finance. So I've known George for a few years as like a power user of DeFi. He's a long-term crypto OG. And then I was delighted maybe it was over a year ago, whenever you started Step, kind of delighted to see someone who's been a part of the community for so long launch a protocol. And so George is one of the few brave ones who launched an early DeFi protocol on Solana. Definitely saw the light there long before I did. Anyways, George, thanks for joining me. How are you doing? Welcome to DeFi Talks.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. And I mean, we're going to show off Step. Like anyone who has used DeFi on Solana probably already knows it, but just in case anybody's new or if they're exploring how to use DeFi on Solana, this is a go-to. This is like your DeFi hub, similar to the way I would use like a Zapper or Zerion on Ethereum. This kind of has everything I need to track my portfolio, but also to be able to like enter and exit certain positions. Also, I'm excited to kind of talk with you more about, they just launched these reward options. And if you're like me and you've been questioning, all of the different tokenomics ideas that have been launched over the last few years, a lot of them, I think, proving that they clearly don't work in the long term. I really like this new idea of a reward option, which I'll let George walk through, but I think it's a very sustainable way to reward those who are, in this case, being an LP on Step without inflating the supply of tokens, which has led to, I think, lots of problems that we've all witnessed in the DeFi space. So on that note, George, maybe we should talk a little bit about your background first. Like, yeah, when did you get started in crypto? And then I've never gotten the full story on like, what were you doing before all of this?
Yeah, well, you know how like people say in dog years and it's like a multiple by 7? I think like in crypto, it's like a multiple by 100, right? So therefore I'm like 5,000 years old, right?
Yeah,
so,
you are very old then. Yeah.
No, I've been, I guess, in crypto since 2011. That's when I took out a loan which I couldn't afford, which, by the way, I implored everyone to do that on Twitter the other day, to buy a Bitcoin miner. I was a student at the time doing electronics engineering. This random company in Kansas City, Missouri, was making a FPGA Bitcoin miner. Bitcoin was $1.70. Well, it's a little bit lower than that, actually. It was maybe $10 or something. But anyway, I built my own computers myself, just sort of mining Bitcoin from way back, when it's $1 and stuff. So anyway, I got into Bitcoin mining, bought some of these, FPGAs, ASICs. That was sort of, early, I guess, 2011, 2012. Wow. Really just sort of didn't know anything about finance, taught myself, never got a degree, left to go and start a crypto company in 2014. We were the first to do Bitcoin remittances. So I'm sort of familiar with that world, and I was doing that for 6 years. But sort of ever since 2020 came around, my focus really sort of shifted a lot to everything which is happening on DeFi, and just sort of going fully into it, and using these different protocols and degenning and getting my degen score and that sort of thing. So I guess sort of I've done a lot of stuff, and I've seen a lot of stuff in this crypto land. But in about a year ago, I decided to start with a friend of mine called Step Finance. It was one of the early projects on Solana. Initially, we started as like a DCA sort of contract and platform, and we started in a hackathon doing that. But eventually we found out, hey, you know what? We should just build something that shows you like all of the stuff which is happening, because Solana's this new thing. I have no idea what's going on. I have money over here, over there, over here, like under the couch, like no idea what's going on. Why don't we build one place that just puts it all in the one tab? So that's what Step's all about. And yeah, that's what we've been building for the last year or so. But yeah, I guess you could say we're sort of one of the early Solana projects.
Yeah, you're. I corrected your title here too. You are the stepfather of Step Finance. Um,
Love
so
it.
okay, so what? Maybe you could tell just a bit about the vision of Step, and then we probably could just screen share as we're kind of talking through this. It's very familiar to me. Again, if anyone's unfamiliar with it, I was the second hire at Zapper, and had a blast like working on Zapper as this like all-in-one DeFi hub dashboard. And Step, I believe, was launched actually while I was still at Zapper. And so Solana being one of the few non-EVM chains, I I, I remember at the time thinking like, why don't we just do that? With Zapper. And again, like I kind of commend your bravery to be like one of the early protocols, and then obviously the fact that Step has decentralized like control of their contracts and actually launched a token. So there's a lot to unpack here, but yeah, Step itself, I'll go ahead and show this on screen, and I'll let George talk through this. But yeah, Step is like your all-in-one hub. If you've got a wallet on Solana, I mean, you can just go to step.finance and plug it in and really start to get a better visualization of like, where is your money? What's your money doing? Are you making any money? But yeah, George, talk us through like, what are we looking at here? What are some of the options?
Yeah, absolutely. So here is one of our test wallets that we use. And with our test wallets, because Step, we have to integrate literally everyone on Solana, right? I think it's over 100 different integrations we've got now. With all of these different protocols, all these different stuff. So this wallet's a good one to look at that encompasses a lot of things. But essentially, getting back to we want to be that one tab that you always have open just to tell you what's going on. So here you've got just one number, it's your net worth, right? That's right at the top. You've got your portfolio overview, different areas. It might be yield farming, lending. Maybe you've got token, maybe you're staking some, maybe you're like in a perp trade or something like that. We break it down there. Reward options, we'll cover that in a little bit. But I guess sort of the main meat and potatoes of Step is a lot of these different things. So I've got my token balances here. And then we go down to, say, DEX positions I might have in Serum. And we've got all these different protocols and platforms, right? All of these different weird positions in different things, staking, yield farming. We've got our yields here, our APYs. I can mouse over and see how many tokens I've got at any one time. We've got our vaults, margin trading, margin long. What's my positions in say Drift or Mango or something like that? Some of the popular Solana perp protocols. As I said, lending. There's like 1 million lending protocols on Solana, so there's a lot of things to see here. And finally, sort of validator staking, and we've got our digital collectibles down here, but we actually have a separate section for NFT stuff way back up the top here. But yeah, essentially, this is sort of a one sort of place to go to. It's like your battle station. It's got
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like if I was going to get started today as a newcomer on Solana, I mean, it's just a no-brainer. You guys have like consolidated all the different protocols and utility in one place. Also, too, like, I mean, I can appreciate firsthand, like keeping up with those protocols is a nightmare. And I'm interested in how you guys are scaling that in the long term as well. George, maybe then we should talk a little bit about these new reward options. And actually, I'll let you kind of walk through like what's the background thinking to this? Like, why did you think to create this, and then how does this actually work?
Yeah, for sure. So you'll see on Step as well, we have some other actions that you can do, right? Like you can swap, you can provide liquidity. We've got a transaction history here as well, which if we wait for that to load for a moment, it'll show you some of your positions. But there's a lot of things that you can do on Step. So here we've got a sort of a readout.
Actually, question on the swap is so does that act as like a DEX aggregator? Like, is it I guess, is it sourcing from all the different liquidity sources itself, or do you guys use some other DEX aggregator?
Good point. So for right now, on the platform right now today at this instant, we're using just the Step AMM, but coming in literally the next 24 hours, 48 hours, something along those lines, we'll integrate a Jupiter, which is the
Nice.
which is the aggregator of Solana. It's basically 1 inch for Solana. But yeah, so you'll be able to swap between everything on Solana, shared liquidity pools. It's always going to be the best price, and yeah, that'll always be on here. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so that'll be really cool. And I think a lot of people, when they're on their dashboard doing stuff, they is a critical component of everything. If you're going into and out of some yield farm or something, swapping is pretty important. So that's sort of front and center one of these features. Liquidity provision, that's another one where we're showing LPs and that sort of thing. We have a number of different pools which we're showing people. We also have what's called, I guess, an opportunities page, which shows you some of the opportunities. This is something which is quite basic at the moment, but over the next few weeks, we're going to be building out. I'll touch on that a little bit later. But anyway, the point is that there's a lot of different things that you can do on Step. And all of these, some of these features, maybe it's like auto compounding a yield farm, or maybe it's swapping, or maybe it's settling a balance from the DEX. Some of these things we accrue revenue on. And that those fees in the protocol 100% goes back to stakers. So that's the first thing, is there is a real reward which is going back to, so we're not printing money, we're not printing coins, and that protocol revenue is going to stakers. But there's, I guess, another incentive as well. And what we've seen, I guess, in DeFi over the years is you go into a farm, they print a bunch of coins, and those coins are diluting everyone in the pool, and it's inflating supply. But everyone sort of does it for a short period of time because, man, the APYs are sick. It's like 500% or something like that. But if it goes down 90% in price, well, it doesn't matter that your APY was 500%, right? You still get wrecked. So this whole model of printing coins into oblivion to essentially subsidize people to come to your platform, right? You're paying people to use your product. Imagine if like Pepsi just like gave you $5 to drink Pepsi. Like, it'd be great if you wanted to do that, but it's not a sustainable business model, right? So in many cases, these protocols would be better off just like using Google Ads or something like that. So we thought, man, there's got to be a better way. The problem to solve is we've got to provide some sort of incentive in the market. Like, people seem to respond to that. But it has to be sustainable, and it has to be done in a way which is not diluting existing holders. It's not essentially detrimental to the rest of the protocol, because often people take their free money that's been printed out of thin air, and then they dump it and move on and see you later. They're not coming back. You paid them to use your platform, but they're not coming back. So, reward options is our solution there. Essentially, it is a call option on Step, which you'll see this wallet's accrued some here. And it's great in a couple of ways. Number one, you can only exercise this option, i.e. cash it in, if the Step price goes above the strike price. So in this case, you can see that this option was minted quite a while ago. They run for 15 days. So this was like 12 days ago. It was minted at 22 cents. And the current price is 11 cents. So I can't actually exercise this option right now because it's not at the strike. Now, that's actually good in that in the bear market, when number go down, you're not continuously diluting supply all the time. All of these other protocols that are printing money are. So not only in a bear market does number go down, but you get also excess inflation, which just helps number go down even more, right? So, the first thing is, I guess you could say it's kind of like bear market resistant, in that you can only increase the supply of circulating supply when number go up, which is great. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, to exercise this option, I need to pay in USDC. And the treasury gets that USDC, and essentially they can then go and use that to go and buy more Step, as we do with our stakers. So instead of us just printing money and getting nothing in return, the treasury actually gets some money, and that goes straight back to stakers. Of course, what's in it for the user? Like, why would I do this? Well, imagine if this new option down here, it is exercisable once Step goes above 13 cents. Well, if we go back to 22, let's say the current price of Step is the 22, and it's all on the exchanges and everything like that, I can still buy Step at 13 if I have this option here. But I get a sweet discount, like almost 50% discount on Step. So you can imagine that would be a pretty big incentive for people to do that, because even if I didn't care about Step, I could still buy at 13 and then just go and sell it again at 22 and then just pocket the difference and make some sweet dosh. So, I think this is a cool incentive that it still rewards individuals, but it doesn't dilute all of the token holders. And it also is, more sustainable for Treasury as well, in that the USDC we receive, we essentially just use to buy more STEP anyway to distribute to stakers. So I guess sort of that's the thinking around reward options. Is it like a sustainable mechanism to attract people to use the platform, but still be something which, is not going to be a farm and dump and move on and see you later and pay people to use your product kind of situation.
Well, part of what drew me into this is I think that we need to rethink the like very innovative ways we're using DeFi to incentivize people to do things that are good for the protocol, but are not so easily gamed. And I think what you've done here is, if you're an LP, especially in this case, let's pretend you're an LP in STEP. I mean, clearly you're aligned with the protocol. If you're holding the native token, then let's pretend like I'm in whatever pool there. As an LP, I'm feeling a certain amount of pain through impermanent loss. So rewarding LPs, again, feels right, but has already happened in DeFi, and we've seen that sort of get exploited where the rewards are just way too high. But then the fact that you're giving them a call option to be able to buy, and then the funds, as far as I understand, what the funds that, like if I choose to exercise one of these options, those funds are going to STEP stakers, right?
Yeah, it goes to the Treasury first, and then the Treasury wallet then uses that to buy
STEP.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I think this is a blueprint for other protocols to consider. So this is not, per usual, none of this financial advice. It's not a recommendation or endorsement to buy any token suspension. But I think from a builder perspective, which is exactly what you are as a builder, I look at this and think like, yeah, this sort of like checks off more of the boxes of like, aligning different players in this protocol and in the community, and especially in the STEP community. And I think this can potentially work longer term. This is all new too, so like obviously we'll be stoked to continue to track this and see how it plays out and kind of get your feedback on that. But yeah, I'm pretty optimistic that this isn't, like I said, an easily earned or easily gamed incentive. Like you really have to, you gotta want to be there in order to take advantage of this. But George, anything else to note about this? Like, if let's pretend the price of STEP is back above 13 cents here in a short amount of time, what'll happen on the far right there is that'll light up green, and then I'll be able to exercise that option. And will I just get the difference, or am I putting in USDC in this case to buy STEP?
Yeah, so you'll have to have some USDC to essentially buy STEP at this price.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. I like this. Yeah. I think that's, though, as I've thought about it the last few days, I think that makes the most sense. Because I mean, in a way, like there is some buying pressure then being applied to the market, which I think then is rewarding STEP token holders who are staking, who are clearly aligned with the vision of what's being offered and built here by STEP.
Yeah, and I guess one awesome sort of side note is that let's say the Treasury gets this USDC, right, and it's going to be buying back STEP. Well, if we see that people exercised it at an average of, I don't know, 15 cents or something like that. Let's say that's just the average that people exercised at. Well, that means that we can then just go and place a bid in, say, the Serum DEX order books at, say, 13, and then we can use that USDC to buy at 13. So actually, we buy more than what was issued as a reward in the first place. So we're actually reducing circulating supply in that circumstance. And of course, that 100% of that goes to stakers as well. So I think this is like it also opens up a cool mechanism to like set a floor price, for the native token as well with the USDC, which Treasury gets. So yeah, I think this kind of mechanism, like, it just makes so much sense. And we currently have it live for step swaps, liquidity LPs, and then also as soon as we launch in the coming couple of hours with with Jupiter, it'll be live on Jupiter as well. And the cool thing about Jupiter is, I think they're doing, I don't know what it is, 100 million a day or something like that, 24-hour volume.
Yeah, they've got some like impressive numbers there.
So all of that volume will be rewarded if you swap through STEP with these call options. So that sort of gives an additional incentive where, hey, it's even better to swap through Jupiter through STEP than it is through Jupiter itself. Like if you go to Jupiter, jup.ag or whatever, you're not going to get these. Whereas if you go through jup.ag, you get literally the same price of everything. It's using the same API, but you get these things on top, which, hey, might pay off. Cool, why not? So, the incentive as well is to capture a lot of that audience, that 100 mil, and, have those people transacting on STEP, which is good for, LPs and the community and everything in general. So, yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
George, if I back away from, all the new products you're shipping, more generally, can you talk to me about what it's been like launching a token for STEP? Because it's, as again, like what you've built is near and dear to me. Like, while I was at Zapper, we never launched a token, still haven't launched a token. So there was a lot of challenges I remember thinking about what if we ever did launch a token? What's been the most challenging part of having launched a token for STEP?
Yeah, so I guess a bit of background, like STEP launched without a token initially, right? We were just like one of those dApps that provides you information. It's a dashboard. We had a couple of other different things as well going on, but it was primarily like that's the core product. As soon as we issued the token, the number of daily active users went up 4x. So the way that I think of it, pretty incredible, right? Like we can tell you how great the product is, and we do every day, but then like, having this additional incentive on top called a token, I think just brings in more people. So I really think of it as like it's like another, it's a kind of a separate product, but it's also a customer acquisition tool as well. Like people might learn about STEP through the token, and then they come to the product and then they use the product. Versus, maybe if we didn't have that, well, maybe they'd never even hear about us. So I think it is beneficial, to be doing it. And we've also got to strike a balance, I guess. One of our core problems and things that we have to do is there's a lot going on, right? We've got to make sure that we're integrating literally everyone in the ecosystem. We've got to make sure that we build cool features, like you saw the transaction history. Like we're not making money from that. We're just telling you the transaction. We have to have like 8 nodes behind the scenes that we're paying a lot of money for to be able to do that. So there's features like that, but people want to see that, right? They want to see those features. And then we have like value adding features as well, things that you press a button and we earn a fee on. And then also like tokenomics stuff like staking or lockups or LPs or AMMs with STEP. And so there's like a balance that you have to strike, right? And one of the things I think with having a token is you do need to invest effort in making sure that what you're building is in some way aligned with the token as well. Is it accruing value? Because the idea is that if STEP just becomes the best place to do everything and everyone's on STEP and they're pressing buttons every day and they have it up every day, well, the value will show, right? It will accrue and people will be doing stuff. So we've got to make sure that is aligned with the token as well. So yeah, I think that's one of the challenges. It's just a balancing act of, limited resources, only so many hours in the day. But yeah, we've got to sort of pick and choose about what we do spend time on and what we don't.
And then maybe more broadly, as an early builder on Solana, can you talk about like, maybe the pros and cons of being a builder in 2022? Again, like you've lived through a lot already, but I'd love to know like what's it like now? We're like the Solana, and in case if anyone watches this in the future, noting that today Solana has about 6.57 billion. We've lived through a pretty dramatic crypto market drawdown across the board. So I'd say across the board where most people are down at least 50%. So, I mean, some of these numbers based on just the US dollar, I mean, peaked around like 13, 15 billion. And we've got the likes of like Terra that's hit a high of, I think, 30 billion. And we'll say today Ethereum's around 116 billion, having reached a high of like 180 billion maybe. So anyways, Solana has come a a long way. There's a lot of there's so many interesting DeFi projects now that you have to integrate with through Step. So anyways, how do you think about it today as a builder?
Yeah, so when we started, that wasn't the case, right? Like, when we
Yeah,
started, we came out of a hackathon. Not many people known about Solana. There was only really a few DeFi apps that existed. It was like one or two dexes maybe, and that was it. And also the tooling wasn't there as well. So like a lot of the docs, a lot of the worked examples, a lot of
yeah,
the contract tools themselves, development kits didn't exist, and everyone was just kind of trying to grapple with like the raw sort of Solana information that they give you. I would say that's a different case today. We have cool things like Anchor, which is a framework for building smart contracts on Solana. We have like the Solana cookbooks for new devs to come in and learn how to do cool stuff. And there's docs for a lot of different things all over the place. So I would say that we're kind of like 10x above in terms of just developer
absolutely.
resources from where we were a year ago, which I think is pretty incredible. And I think the Solana team have invested a lot of time and effort into that. But yeah, like early building was hard. It wasn't easy because there wasn't like, who do you call? Nobody. There's no one to call. No Ghostbusters. There's
Absolutely.
yeah. So I think that was a challenge, but different case now. I think as well, like the latest hackathon that concluded last week, the Riptide hackathon for Solana,
Right.
550 projects, 7,000 people entered. So imagine that. Like when I'm scrolling through that list of like 550 projects, man, like not all of them are going to reach mainnet, but let's say, I don't know, 10% do. Okay, that's like 55 new dApps that are going to be building cool stuff, attracting users, talking about how great they are. That's super cool. And, that wasn't the case, a year or so ago. So I think we come a long way. I think these hackathons are really good for people to get involved in the ecosystem.
Totally.
And they have these hacker houses as well. So yeah, in Miami, there was a lot of that going on. So yeah, really cool stuff.
Oh yeah. Wow. Wait, were you at that Miami hackathon that had like there was a I only got the story after the fact, but there was a bomb threat. Thank God everyone's okay. It turned out to be a false bomb threat or
Yeah.
a dog or something thought a backpack had a device in it. I don't know. It was scary, but glad everyone's okay.
Yeah, I don't know what it was in the end. They didn't really clarify. So, I
Yeah.
mean, who knows? But yeah, like there was the demo day for the hackathon was at the Solana Miami, conference and
Yeah.
area. So they were like our step team was there. I wasn't there, but they said like they got to meet a bunch of really cool people and builders in the ecosystem, and like everyone was yeah, a lot of people knew Step, so it was great to see and meet people face to face. So yeah, I think those kind of events are super useful. And yeah, I think it was great. Although people say now that crypto conferences have become music festivals, and it kind of
Yeah,
looks like, to be honest.
it's they're really fun. I've only gone. I'm trying to think. What have I gone to this year? I went to. Actually, wait, no, I haven't gone to anything this year. It was back in the fall. I went to the Masari conference, but I am going to go to Permissionless. If anyone ends up going in Palm Beach, Florida, which should be like a lot of fun. But yeah, no, these hackathons are so important to like the future of more builders building cool stuff that basically like in DeFi or really actually it doesn't even matter if you're building a gaming application on Solana or any other chain, you just need that many more builders building valuable protocols so you can stack it and create more like innovative new solutions. So yeah, I know there's been a number of projects on Solana that I thought were really interesting just lately. One of them mirrors the utility, I think, of liquidity on Ethereum. It's called Hubble. That was one I got to review, and you earn like 20% yield on a stable coin, and it's held up too. It wasn't like a short-term yield. It's still around like 20%. Still a big fan of the Francium guys have always offered leveraged yield farming. And then the likes of Tulip, which I think sort of plays back into Step. I look at Step as sort of an aggregator of all these opportunities. And I know you guys are continually trying to build out to help us sort of curate that. But it's a great place to start if you're new to DeFi. You check out Step and it sort of just gives you all these tools in one place. I mean, especially if you're new and you're going to trade, that swap with the with the Jupiter aggregator, that's huge because now you're getting the best rate, with the least amount of slippage versus going out there and looking individually at like Orca and Radium and all the other AMMs. But George, anything else you wanted to share before we go? I think we just about covered it, and like appreciate you being so generous with your time here today.
Yeah, I guess sort of the main thing that we're looking forward, right? Looking forward into what's next.
Yes.
I think data is really important for us. Like you sort of mentioned, and maybe I touched on it, but Step's really good at showing you what you have, but we still need to get better at showing you what you don't have. And like you mentioned, rattled off a bunch of names there. People might not know them. Certainly if you're new to the ecosystem, you don't know all of these different protocols that are doing all this crazy stuff. So where are you going to find that, right? That information is often hard to find. So I think our job over the next, say, 6 months or so is to be sort of revealing the rest of the ecosystem through Step and showing people the opportunities, sort of showing people the different products and protocols that are out there, really showing people what you don't have, not only just showing you what you have. So that also means data and more analytics for us. So we want to show people like, what's the performance of some of these protocols? Like what's your LP performance over the last year or so, or something like that, including incentives, without incentives, and blah, blah, blah. So there's a couple of those sort of things. There's quite a lot of people building indexing stuff on Solana now. So we're talking to all of them. But yeah, I think you can expect from us, much more focus on showing you the data that's happening in the ecosystem and showing you what you don't have, and making that easier for people. And it's obviously in our interest to do that, because the more people that find that useful, the more people that come to Step, the more people that keep that one tab open, and that's our goal. Ultimately, that's what we want.
Yeah, well, I commend your bravery in continuing to build Step. It is not an easy role to be in. It's easy to use and fun to use, and actually, Step and Phantom are probably most responsible for me finally getting into using DeFi applications on Solana. I was pretty blind until like summer 2021, less than a year ago. And I just was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I've used everything on Ethereum. I had tried a bunch of stuff on Polygon. I was kind of dabbling with Avalanche at the time. And I would tell anyone, like, download the Phantom wallet. Like, it just makes life so easy. It's very familiar if you're like comfortable with MetaMask. It's the one thing you need to get started. And then highly recommend using a hardware wallet with that, because of the same sorts of risks of using a hot wallet like MetaMask. So George, I'll also flash this one more time. Everyone can learn more about Step at step.finance. They can check out the reward options there and the docs if they want to learn more about that. They should follow you and Step here on Twitter. And dude, so good to see you. Just appreciate your time. I'm going to end the broadcast here in a minute, but yeah, anything else you wanted to say before we go?
No, I think that covers it. Come into our Discord, say hello, talk to us on Twitter. We're around. So yeah, no, it's been a pleasure being here.
Absolutely. And by the way, if you enjoy this, you can subscribe at DeFiDad.com. We'll be interviewing many more leading founders and builders and investors like George. And yeah, look forward to having a great weekend here. So everyone, take care. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.